India met Alexander's shadow. Long before the Mauryan Empire emerged, Alexander of Macedon carved a path across Persia, Babylon, Egypt, and Central Asia. He marched with armies and a vision, a world united under Greek ideals and Macedonian strength. Yet storms, no matter how powerful, lose their fury. After Alexander's death in Babylon, his generals, the Diadochi, divided his empire and fought for supremacy. In this turmoil, Seleucus Nikator, once Alexander's commander, rose near India. Seleucus inherited the dream of empire. As he looked east, he wondered, what remained unconquered past the Indus? The new power in the east. In Alexander's time, the lands of India were fragmented, with kingdoms divided by rival claims, lineage disputes, and local wars. But the east that Seleucus now surveyed was very different from the one Alexander had known. A single emblem now marked the plains from Taxila to Patliputra, the lion of the Mauryan Empire. In the capital city of Patliputra, a place of wooden palisades, lush gardens, and wide avenues bustling with traders and scholars, sat a king who had risen from the humblest of beginnings. Chandragupta Maurya, once a child roaming village fields, now ruled a realm greater and more unified than any before him in India. Yet beside him stood an even more enigmatic figure, the scholar who had shaped him, sharpened him, and guided him into kingship, Chanakya. Chanakya, once a wrong Brahmin humiliated by the Nanda king, had turned his burning indignation into strategy, into revolution, into statecraft. His mind was both a sanctuary and a battlefield. Every alliance, every army movement, every whisper of dissent, he analyzed with relentless clarity. And now, word arrived that the heir to Alexander's ambition marched eastward. The shadow approaches. The royal court buzzed with messengers bearing news from the northwest. Seleucus had secured Persia. He had swept through Bactria. His scouts had reached the edges of the Hindu Kush. In the throne room of Patliputra, a breathless messenger bowed low. Maharaj, Seleucus has set his sights upon us. He has crossed the western satrapies. His armies advance. Chandragupta sat motionless as the words settled over the court like distant thunder. His expression remained serene, neither troubled nor triumphant. Only his fingers, tapping lightly upon the lion-shaped armrest, betrayed the depth of his contemplation. Chanakya stood beside him, his shikha neatly tied, his plain robes a stark contrast to the ornamental grandeur around him. He did not appear alarmed. If anything, he seemed expectant, as though this moment had been inevitable. Chandragupta turned to him. Acharya, the shadow of Alexander returns. Do we prepare for war? Chanakya's answer came like a whisper wrapped in steel. Shadows vanish when the sun rises, Maharaj. Let us ensure the sun is ours. Plans upon maps. In a quiet chamber lit by oil lamps, Chanakya and Chandragupta stood over a map of the empire. Small stones represented cities, carved elephants and horses marked battalions. Chandragupta voiced a thought held by many generals. Seleucus is no ordinary commander. His men have crossed continents. They have fought countless battles. Can we truly withstand such an experience? Chanakya knelt to adjust a small figure, shifting it along a mountain ridge. Experience alone wins nothing, Maharaja. Geography, willpower, supply, and strategy win wars. And Seleucus lacks the most important of these, familiar ground. He traced the mountain passes with a finger. This land favors us. Elephants dominate the plains where his phalanxes falter. Seleucus's supply lines will strain, and his men will tire. Let him come. India remembers invaders. A slow smile curled on Chandragupta's lips. Then, Acharya, let him come. The first clash of empires. Seleucus advanced, confident but cautious. His army, trained in the Greek style, disciplined in the phalanx formations, was among the finest in the world. Spears bristled like forests in motion. War horns carried their cries across dusty landscapes. But the Indian frontier did not yield. The Mauryan legions surged with a strength born from unity rarely seen in India's past. Their formations were deliberate, their generals well drilled, and towering above all were the war elephants, living fortresses that terrified horses and shattered shield walls. Battles raged in mountain passes and at rivers. Seleucus won some, lost others, but gained nothing decisive. The land resisted him, the people resisted him, and worst of all, the deeper he marched, the more he realized India was no longer a prize, it was a civilization. A king who knew when to turn. Late one evening, in a tent lit by wavering torchlight, Seleucus listened to his generals argue. "Another push and spring, my king. We've seen worse odds. Our men are exhausted. If we press on, the satrapies will revolt behind us. We need a victory to hold this ground. We need peace to keep what we've earned." Seleucus stared at the map, then at the faces around him. His silence carried more truth than any speech. He had not been defeated, yet he could not win. Not here, not like this. Finally, he spoke. "Tell Chandragupta Maurya that Seleucus Nikator wishes to meet, not as invader or conqueror, but as king to king." The meeting of the mighty. A neutral riverside plain was chosen for the meeting, neither Greek nor Indian soil. Pavilions rose like great tents of diplomacy. Mauryan banners fluttered in gold and red. Greek standards shone with the Macedonian sunburst. Chandragupta arrived in a stately chariot. Seleucus approached on horseback. Between them, a modest table with scrolls, maps, and a single oil lamp awaited. Their first exchange was simple, respectful. "When I first heard of you," Seleucus said, "you were a rebel in Magadha's shadows. Now you rule lands Alexander dreamed of." "And when I first heard of you," Chandragupta replied, "you marched with Alexander himself. Now you shape what remains of his legacy." Chanakya observed silently. His eyes missed nothing: the posture, the tone, the unspoken calculations. At last, Seleucus turned to him. "And you, teacher, the one the travelers whisper about, the mind is sharper than spears." Chanakya bowed slightly. "I am merely a man who dislikes poor decisions, Your Majesty. Today, perhaps, we can choose wisely together." The treaty that shaped civilizations. Unfurling a map, Chanakya marked territories west of the Indus, lands geographically aligned with India's sphere. "These regions," he said, "you cannot hold without bleeding your strength dry. Give them to us. In return," he paused for effect, "we will give you 500 war elephants." The tent fell silent. 500 elephants were not merely troops. They were a strategic weapon capable of deciding wars in the West. Seleucus knew it. Chanakya knew he knew it. Seleucus exhaled softly. "With 500 elephants, no diadochi would dare test my borders." "Exactly," Chanakya said. "You strengthen your west, we secure our east." But Chanakya wanted more than land and strategic balance. He wanted a bond that could not be untied. He suggested a marriage alliance, a Greek princess to join the Mauryan court. Seleucus agreed. Their families, their realms, and their futures intertwined. And to cement understanding, Seleucus sent an envoy, Megasthenes, whose writings would become the Western world's earliest window into Mauryan India. A quiet victory. Back in Patliputra, as life resumed its rhythm, Chandragupta reflected on the encounter. "Acharya, we did not crush Seleucus, yet he yields land. Is this victory?" Chanakya smiled, a rare but genuine smile. Victory, Maharaj, is not always measured in broken armies. Sometimes it is measured in what you do not destroy. He looked toward the far horizon. Today, the West saw India not as a land to conquer, but as a civilization to respect. That respect will echo for generations. Legacy beyond the maps. As time flowed and kingdoms shifted, the treaty between Chandragupta and Seleucus stood as a turning point, not just for two rulers, but for two worlds. Trade grew, ideas moved. Stories of India's wealth, philosophy, and political order were transmitted westward by Megasthenes, and in return, Greek thought seeped into Indian discourse, quietly enriching it. The collision that might have destroyed both powers instead birthed cooperation. And in the soft evening glow of Patliputra, Chanakya often watched Chandragupta hold court. His mission was nearly complete. The seed he had planted, the dream he had protected with cunning and sacrifice, had become a vast tree whose branches touched both east and west. Empires rise, fall, and fade, but the wisdom of that treaty, the grace of restraint, and the brilliance of strategy, these endured. For it was not merely the end of an invasion, it was the beginning of Bharat's rise as a major power to reckon with.